What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys the full spoilers for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Manga chapter number 34. So shout out to Felix for the information I'm going to be talking about in this video. The chapter is titled I'm Already Used to It, and the middle text of the cover page says, "The flame of redemption burns silently." And as you guys can see, the cover page for this month is a solo cover of Code, who was hinted at returning at the end of chapter 33. So, cool solo cover right there. Ikimoto keeps up his streak of doing, solid covers or better. I do want to say one big thing that's going to be different in this month's spoiler video is I'm not going to really show panels like that, just because last month's video did get hit with copyright, unfortunately, and I had to work pretty hard to get that back up. So we're going to try out a little bit of a new format. I am still going to run through, the full spoilers, and I am going to talk about, the dialogue page to page. But unfortunately, I won't be able to really show that to you guys, even in the skimmed fashion that I was in some previous months. So if you do really want to go through the panels on your own, feel free to go on Twitter and go on Felix's account and check them out there. But I am going to still give you the chapter information, and we are going to talk about what exactly is going on. So let's get to that. We do have page 1 where Kawaki is asking Boruto, that thorn soul, what do you mean by rot? What happens when it rots? And Boruto responds to that by saying exactly what it sounds like. Leave it alone and the thorn soul will rot within minutes. And those who were turned into trees, in other words, the humans who became the prototype of the divine tree, they will die. So we then cut over to Himawari, who yells Inojin in excitement and gives him a hug, saying, "Thank goodness you're awake." And Inojin does have his vision here. We are then on page 3, where Inojin says Himawari, and then Shikadai is there saying, "Inojin, are your eyes okay?" And Inojin says, "I can see just fine, thanks to Himawari healing me right away." So that's the reason why he still has his vision, because Himawari came in clutch with her OP healing. So I feel like people are going to give a little bit of a mixed reaction to that, because it would have been a pretty lasting consequence, I think, of Inojin's sacrifice last chapter to keep his vision gone. But with Himawari's ability being around and how broken her healing seems to be, it does make sense at the very least that her power would be able to do this for him. But whether people are going to like it or not, I'm not sure. I'm personally going to have to think about it myself a little bit. But he does have his vision. That's what's going on. Meanwhile, Konohamaru is carrying Sarada on his back, and he says, "Hey, she'll come around eventually. For now, let's get her to the hospital." Then you got Chocho coming up, running to saying, "Konohamaru sensei." We are then on page 4, where Ada and Damon are talking, and Damon's like, "Sis, are you hurt?" And Ada says, "Yeah, I'm fine because you protected me." And then Damon says, "Sure, go ahead." And then we have page 5, where we have pretty much Boruto being talked to by Koji, and he ends up saying pretty much, Koji ends up saying pretty much, "Code never showed himself after all. I figured he'd slip out amid all the chaos of the battle, but part of the divine tree's body, those claw marks, that bastard Code is probably listening in on all this. Most likely he's probably already found out that the bug died too, and he's still biding his time, waiting for his chance to kill you, Boruto. So Code is lying in wait, and that's what's being suggested by Koji." He also says, "If you, the bearer of the Thorn Soul, were to visit Bug's domain, no doubt about it, Code will almost certainly show himself. There's little worry about reinforcements showing up there. That place could be said to be the most advantageous for him. He wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. It's an outcome common across many possible futures. The battle with Bug has once again altered the shape of fate. But even so, given Code's motives, it would be stronger if he didn't appear. Boruto says, and the outcome? How does it unfold after that? Koji says, broadly speaking, there are 3 paths. So now, on page 7, Koji explains this to him, and he says, 1, you kill him. And he says that's the most ideal outcome. Right now, tracking down his location is not easy. Finishing him off here would be a major win. Path number 2, Code ends up escaping. He'd then decide his chances that his chances of beating Boruto are pretty slim. And then Koji says, and after that, he'll set his sights instead on Sarada. Boruto reacts to that by saying, what? And he does not look amused. Page 8, then Koji pretty much ends up saying, the plan is to take you to the Divine Tree as a bargaining chip. Said I could use you as a hostage to lure someone in. So maybe this is referring to Code's idea there. And then the third path is pretty much more than the 2 things I just told you. There's a possibility things unfold in a way completely different. And then Boruto says, is this the part where the future gets destroyed? And Koji says, just so you know, there's a chance he turns his back on the Divine Tree and cooperates with us. It's possible. That said, the chances of that happening are practically 0. If you get the chance, kill him. The fewer uncertainties, the better. And then Thorn Soul does seems like it's starting to rot. And Boruto says, looks like I don't have time to think about it. So he starts making his way. We are now on page 10. Boruto does look back towards Inojin. He says, well done, Inojin. You're exempt from the head shaving for now. And then he disappears. Himawari looks the other way and says, Boruto. Honestly, that line by Boruto about the head shaving is pretty funny. Especially because we know he wasn't really feeling the Inojin haircut. And I know a lot of the fan base, including myself, was cracking jokes about it too. So, pretty funny line right there by Boruto. Page number 11. Kawaki is contacted by a toad. And the toad ends up saying, it's me, Amado. And Kawaki says, what? So this is surprising to me too, but seems like Amado is moving a bit different right now. And he ends up saying, come to the lab later. We need to talk. So that's page 12. And then we're on page 13 now, where Boruto actually ends up activating his karma and opening the eye as he's in that dimension now where Bug is pretty much trapped in the tree. So page 14 is Code just waiting to strike, and he's pretty much thinking, fool Boruto, coming all this way just to save Bug, who you have no connection to. But I know you'd come. That's just the type of guy you are, or kind of guy you are. Come closer, you hypocrite. I'll end it in an instant by slashing your throat. So Code is waiting for his moment to strike. And this was actually, the page I just said was actually page 15, I think. And then page 13 and 14 were just pages of Boruto just getting to that dimension. Now, we change gears here. Page 16 through 18, we have Sarada awakening in the hospital. And pretty much she says, I. And then as she's beginning to talk, Sumire is saying, as for the Bug, you're safe now. It's over. Everyone made it out safe. And then Sarada's looking on at Chocho. She's looking very blurry. But Sarada doesn't have her glasses on at the moment, but she does say Chocho. And right then Sarada is handed her glasses by Sakura. And Sakura says, here are your glasses. And she's like, how many fingers do you see? And she's holding up 3. Sarada looks through the glasses, but she's squinting pretty hard. so she's struggling to see what exactly is going on. Sakura says, just as I thought, the prescription doesn't seem right. Your eyesight has clearly gotten worse than before. Sakura says, it's an unavoidable risk that comes with the Mangekyo Sharingan. The more you use it, the more your vision deteriorates. Depending on the technique and how you use it, either way, if you keep using it like this, you'll eventually go completely blind. So now she's hearing this from Sakura. So Sakura makes an appearance, which I think is much needed. It's something that I would have liked to have seen more earlier in Two Blue Vortex as well, like some more Sarada and Sakura interactions. So we are getting that here, which I'm happy to see. Page 19 through 21, this continues on. Chocho says, huh? And Sarada ends up saying, hey, mom. And Sakura says, I'm sorry. Actually, Sarada says, I'm sorry. Even so, and before Sarada can finish what she's saying, Sakura takes the glasses off and just gives her a hug. So on page 21, Sakura says, it's fine. I'm not going to tell you not to use it, because that power is something you chose to do for the sake of what you're trying to protect. It's the power that you yourself needed, a strength that you created yourself. So Sakura is being pretty understanding here. Pages 22 and 23 continue on the conversation. Sakura continues on by saying, it's not my place to say anything. It's a matter of your resolve. As long as you have that, you will be fine. Sarada says, mom. And then Sakura says, you want to become Boruto's strength, right? And as, Sakura says that, Sarada is now shedding some tears. Chocho's just looking on. Sakura says, honestly, you're really my kid through and through. All for the sake of one boy, willing to throw everything else away. And she then says, just like your father, you always stand up against something impossibly overwhelming. No matter what kind of shame they try to pin on you, your father's brother was the same way. So, honestly, some cool stuff being said here by Sakura here, because she ends up acknowledging the similarities that they got to each other. She also then compares her to Sasuke in certain ways, and to Itachi, which is honestly a pretty cool reference to see as well. And then we go on, pages 24 to 27 pretty much wraps up this conversation. Sakura says, Sarada, I trust you and your father, no matter what happens. And she's smiling now. She's saying, I'm used to it by now. People talking all kinds of trash about my family. So she's just smiling through, and Sarada's happy to hear this, and she's kind of got like the face where, she's smiling, but you could tell she just cried. Then we go on to the next page where Sakura is now being called about a patient in another room, and Sakura says, sorry, I'll be right there. And then she just all of a suddenly yells, Sarada, and then Sarada says, what? And then Sakura says her iconic line with the cha, and then she ends up going and darting out of there. And honestly, there was a pretty cool page of Sarada and Sakura there. Sakura definitely has a presence. You could tell it gave me some Tsunade vibes. So again, if you guys are interested in peeping the actual pages and whatnot, definitely go check that out. But all in all, a pretty good conversation here, and one that I felt was much needed. So now pages 28 to 30, we do have a little bit more on Sarada, but what's going on now is Chocho is talking to her, and Chocho says, I always think about this. What's that supposed to mean? And she's referring to Sakura's line. And Sarada says, actually, I don't really get it either, though. And as Sakura's walking away now in the hall heading towards that patient, she's wiping off, a tear of her own, because she's clearly concerned for Sarada. And then Sarada says, it's incredible. She's really fired up. So, just, talking about her energy there. Chocho says, Sarada, why are you here? Sarada says, instead of While Chocho keeps talking, actually, Chocho says, instead of Kawaki, whom she used to be so close with, why is she getting so desperately worked up for a traitor like Boruto? It never made sense to me before, but this time after fighting alongside him, I finally get it now. Boruto is fighting for the leaf. This is for real. So now, another person shifting to more pro Boruto and realizing who Boruto is actually fighting for. So that's just another ally now to an extent in Boruto's book, and just shows you kind of where the stance has changed, because Ino Shikucho definitely wasn't really messing with him prior to this arc. So this just shifted them over, at least to some degree, too. Pages 31 to 33. So we have Chocho saying, and he's still ridiculously good looking on top of it. That's what it really comes down to, isn't it? And Sarada says, huh? No, that's not it. Sumire giggles. Chocho says, I still have no idea when Kawaki suddenly turned into such a hottie, and he looks nothing like the seventh either. Like, it's been so long since we talk normally like this. I'm seriously so happy right now. And class rep, have you been doing okay? So Chocho is just out here throwing out stuff, trying to make some talk, and saying that they haven't talked like that in a while. Sarada also says, she is not the class rep anymore. Sumire. And then Chocho says, huh? And then Sumire responds, it's Sumire-chan. And then Chocho says, what? Chocho says, what the? Talk about a massive character change. This is insane. What the heck happened? Is it no good? Is what Sumire says. I've got it. Isn't this also because of Sarada's Mangekyo? What kind of logic is that? Ha ha ha. So, just some more chatter going on right there. And then this leads us to shifting scenes on page 33, where we have Boruto walking now towards Bug and getting ready to bring him back with this Thorn Soul. And then right then, what ends up happening is an attack by Code, a sneak attack attempt on page 34, as Boruto is trying to get that Thorn Soul going. But Boruto ends up reacting to it with a Rasengan Uzuhiko and ends up landing the hit on Code's arm, I believe. So then we're on pages 37 and 38, pretty much wrapping up the chapter now. Code is now outside of the claw mark. Boruto staring him down. And Code is saying, crafty little bastard. He anticipated my ambush and launched a counter against me. I didn't expect that. So Code looking like he might take another L again. I'm not going to lie. Code is about to get packed up unless he smartens up and escapes, or he ends up joining their side, which Koji said would be a low possibility. But since Koji mentioned that, it makes me feel like that's what's probably going to end up happening somehow, some way. Boruto says, glad to see you're in good shape, Code. A sneak attack, huh? Pretty passive of you. And then Boruto says, what's wrong? Come at me. You've only missed once so far. Have some confidence. Code says, this damn bastard. Like I'd fall for such a cheap taunt. Boruto says, hey then, what are you going to do? Just how do you plan on killing me when you're shaking like that? Code says, what am I going to do? So Boruto's talking his shit right now, that's for sure. And that leads us to the final two pages, pages 39 and 40. And Code is saying, you'll understand soon enough. And then right then, he ends up going away, or that's what Boruto's thinking at least. Boruto says, so he ran away, huh? You were provoking him a little too much, Koji says. And right then, the Thorn Soul is rotting more, and then you hear a pop. So, what ends up happening is Boruto then ends up saying, sorry, old man, you're too slow. And Bug pretty much ends up dying. Koji says, don't worry about it. He was just a villain anyway. At least burn this sight into your eyes. the sight of a soul burning out completely. So pretty cool lines right there to end out, I'm not gonna lie. And Bug dying, you know, honestly, not like a major death, but we know Bug's not like a saint anyway or anything like that. So Boruto getting to see that and seeing the effect of the Thorn Soul not being, used in time and what it does, I think is a pretty cool scene. And we do have one thing that's also said at the end on the side of the chapter where it says Bug's soul burns away, making a mockery of Boruto's goodwill, and what is Code's next plan. And that ends off the chapter 34. I think this chapter definitely balanced out some stuff pretty well on a couple different fronts. My initial impressions are I liked what I see. I'm definitely going to be sure to make a review on this when we officially have it drop. But as always, let me know what you guys think of the chapter spoilers in the comments below. And again, let me know too how you guys felt about this format. I might tweak it a little bit more next month, but hopefully you guys were still able to enjoy the spoilers video. I did still go over all of the dialogue and did hit everything on that. But in regards to the panel, like I said, check out Felix's account if you guys are interested in seeing all the panels one by one. But that's pretty much it for this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you guys are new. And as always, I hope you guys have a good day or night whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm Rewinds, and I'm out.